Okay, welcome back. There have been many diet plans out there, a lot of fad diets, and a lot of people have jumped on the latest one. But there have been, I don't know of any that have originated here in Greenville. This one did. We have a new one called the dudek diet plan, the language of metabolism. Dr. Ron Dudek, who is a tenured full professor at the Brody School of Medicine, I'm reading from the back of the book, wrote this book. It's the Dudek Diet Plan, and Dr. Ron Dudek is here in the studio. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Hello, thank you.
Good to see you. I've been doing this for a while. Now, number one, I probably shouldn't put you in the category of fad diet because it's not really a fad diet. You deal with the metabolism of people's bodies when they're dieting, right? Is there a short version of what your philosophy is and your diet plan is?
Yeah, the short version is I always start out, for example, asking people, why do you gain weight? And if I asked all your listeners out there, why do you gain weight? Almost everybody would tell you that you gain weight because you either eat too much or you don't exercise enough.
Right.
And that's the misconception about weight loss. You don't.
I'm glad to hear that.
You don't get fat because you eat too many calories or because you don't exercise enough. You gain weight, or you get fat, if you will, because your insulin levels are too high in your body.
Huh.
So once your insulin levels get high, then all the nutrients you eat, about 30 to 40% of the nutrients you eat in a meal, will go right to your adipose tissue or your
Fat.
waistline. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And as long as your insulin levels are high, your nutrients go into your adipose tissue and increase your waistline, and you say, I get fat. It's the number of calories, it's the kind of calories. And what raises insulin levels in your body is glucose, carbohydrates.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have now in our diet, if you go to the supermarket, you go to fast food, it is a high-carb diet. And that has been the real killer for obesity and atherosclerosis.
And of course, the famous Atkins diet is a low-carb plan.
Correct.
So now tell me, you're not suggesting that we go in that direction, are you? Is the
Well,
dudek diet plan like a Atkins?
Yes. The dudek diet plan is somewhat like the Atkins diet, which was low carb. Dr. Atkins really is the modern day guy who got famous for the low carb diet. He was a
Right.
cardiologist,
Right.
and he got blasted by the American Heart Association
Right.
because they were selling low fat. And the cardiologist and American Heart Association, they say the problem is is the fat, and they say you have to have a low fat diet. Well, you only have three nutrients: carbohydrates and proteins. If you reduce your fat content in your diet because you want to protect against coronary artery disease, you only have two left: protein or carbs. And what we did in our society is we raised our carb level in our diet, and that raised the insulin, and then everything followed from there.
But Atkins got criticized because people were going out and ordering 3 eggs with cheese in the morning and sausage and bacon, and then they were having, a big steak at night.
That's right.
As long as you don't eat the baked potato, you can have as much
Correct.
steak as you want and all that. And cardiologists didn't like that. They say that's too much fat content going to your arteries.
That's right.
And it was very controversial. And as a result, I think the Atkins thing has kind of died off in recent years since he passed away,
Yeah,
essentially.
it has.
So you say cardiologists have been wrong about that?
Yes, and that's very controversial
Yeah.
for me to say that.
This is going to get you on Oprah.
Yeah, this is going to get me. It might get me fired or unpopular.
It's an interesting position to take since
Yeah.
we opened a new heart institute
Yeah.
here recently.
Well, this all goes back. I mean, you actually kind of get into the cholesterol deal and the fat thing.
Right.
Really, conception is that if you eat the yolk of an egg, that cholesterol from the yolk goes right to your coronary arteries and clogs them up, and that
Right.
really isn't true. The main thing that's driving atherosclerosis is the high carbs, is LDL.
Right.
And what we know pretty much now is that the LDL levels are increased by high carbs. All right, that's what drives LDL to go up. And really, Atkins was right. He was a cardiologist, and he got blasted by the Heart Association. That's right. I mean, eating fat doesn't get you fat.
How do you know he was right?
Well, he wasn't the only one, okay, who came up with a low-carb diet. I made a little list of this. I mean, back into 1958, we had the first book out was Eat Fat and Grow Slim, all right, which is, just absolutely diametrically opposed
Right.
to what we believe now.
Right.
When you look at when we changed our diet in the United States, which was about 1977, with Senator George McGovern had this big Senate committee on nutrition, they flipped over the pyramid, the food pyramid. Before that time, the food pyramid was mostly fats, meats, eggs, and cheeses, and very little carbs.
Mm-hmm.
When that 1977 commission flipped it over on its head and said, now you should eat now your main meal, your main dish should be carbohydrates and very little fats and meats. And what drove, and if you look
think
at that,
that's where the
what
country
drives
became
everything.
obese?
That's what drove everything up.
Yeah.
The key
All right,
is,
so tell us, what do we stay away from then? I know you've got, and you want people to buy the book, and we'll talk
oh,
about
absolutely.
We'll
that
let
would
you know.
help.
We'll let you know how to get the book in a minute, but
Yeah.
just give us a little primer. If I want to get started on the dudek diet
Okay.
plan,
All right.
I want to stay away from what? All breads?
You want to stay away from all carbohydrates. The simple carbohydrates, no, the sugars, okay? The sugars that are in sodas, okay? The sugars that are in pastries.
How about diet sodas?
Diet sodas are okay. Those are 0 carbs and 0 sugars.
Yeah.
So then you want to stay away from your noodles, your pasta, your starches, your potatoes, and that. And that is this is an 8-week plan. Now, after 8 weeks, you can reintroduce these back into your diet. I'm not saying this doesn't